some things that we witness that have changed. And I think that I have to say to you, Madam President, you have changed the scene. For years there have been stockpiles of studies, and always women of color or minorities were always in the footnotes or were an asterisk. And I want to thank you that I'm no longer an asterisk. So when you ask me what has changed, I have to start with that, the deepest of things. In 1932, I was a student at New York University, and though I was studying in the sciences, I took some elective courses, one of which was in religion. And one day, my professor said to me, asked me to remain after class, and he said, "Dorothy, you're too good a student to be in my classes. The church is not ready for women, and the black church surely is not ready for you." Well, that was a real blow, but I took his advice and took some other courses. But I would have to say today that in some seminaries, we will find that the majority of people in the seminaries are women. That's a change that we all have to note with great appreciation. And in my life in recent years, I have been experiencing the civil rights movement of working as what was called the United Civil Rights Leadership with Dr. King and Roy Wilkins and A. Philip Randolph, John Lewis, Whitney Young, and James Farmer. And somehow or other, we were 7. Somehow or other, the press came out with the Big 6. And I was always there, but I was the invisible one, I guess, because I was a woman. And I remember one time going to the White House, and one of the workers at the White House said to me, "Miss Height, you usually stand on the end, and therefore you're not in the pictures." Well, I learned to get in the middle. One thing I want to mention, that all of us talk about the March on Washington, and we will never forget the message of Dr. King. But in terms of women, for weeks we worked to get a woman speaker. And the argument always came back to us that women were already represented. And they said, well, when you looked at it, women are members of the NAACP, but the speaker was Roy Wilkins. Women are in the unions, but the speaker was Walter Reuther. Women are in all the churches, but the speaker was Eugene Carson Blake. And women are in the Urban League, but the speaker was Whitney Young, and so on it went. And many times, I think many do not realize that the only female voice you heard at the March on Washington, August 28, 1963, was the voice of Mahalia Jackson, who sang the national anthem. Well, some of us were not satisfied, so the National Council of Negro Women organized a conference afterwards, and the subject was, after the march, what? And Polly Murray wrote a working paper that we all worked from, and we met. And in that meeting, we developed a picture of the role of women in the civil rights movement and what we were doing. And I have to tell you, that never again would you see them have a major march without having a woman. And I said that because I think that as women, we've always had to stand up and speak for ourselves. I remember Pat Schroeder, when she was in the Congress, saying that she went to a meeting and people said to her, "You always talk about women." And so for a while, she kept quiet. And then she started all over again. She said to someone, she said, you know, you said I always talk about women, but I find that if I don't mention women, they don't come up. There's no words down about women. So that I really think that we are living in a day now of change, and it's more open, and women are learning to speak up for who we are. Back in 1852, Sojourner Truth went to a meeting, and she raised the question, everybody talks about women, but ain't I a woman? And I think that we are learning that we're not talking about particular women, we're talking about all women. I dedicated my memoirs to my mother, and I put in the heading, in the statement, I gave it to her for her great expectations. Those expectations have been a driving force in my life. I'm always trying to move, not against someone else or ahead of someone else, but to improve what I'm doing. And I want to thank the center. I want to thank you for being here, because with the information that you're providing, with the quality of research that you have, with the inclusiveness that it represents, you lift our expectations, and I think that we can all move forward expecting that with this kind of work, we will see more and more women moving into places until we have a society in which we do not have to stop and look at one group or the other, but we have equality, justice, and freedom and dignity for all.